How do you apply rationality in your life? Rationality is the skill of using reason and logic to make decisions and judgments that are based on facts and evidence, not emotions, biases, or intuition. Rationality can save your life, or ruin it. In this video, I will show you 10 steps that you must follow to apply rationality in your life. These steps will help you to avoid cognitive biases that distort your thinking and perception. Update your knowledge with new information and evidence. Evaluate the quality and relevance of information and evidence. Generate and explore many possible solutions or alternatives. Base your decisions and judgments on facts and evidence. Set and achieve realistic and practical goals and expectations. Choose and implement the best solution or alternative. Focus on the positive aspects and outcomes of the situation. Learn and improve from the situation. Use the situation for your purposes, if you dare. I will also give you some examples of situations that you can use to practice and apply these steps, such as how to choose a major for your college, how to ask for a raise, how to start a new project, how to help a friend who is depressed, how to break up with your partner. By the end of this video, you will be able to apply rationality in your life, and make smart decisions that will benefit you and others. You will also be able to use any situation for your purposes, but beware of the risks and consequences. Are you ready to learn how to apply rationality in your life? Then watch this video now, or regret later. Here are 10 main points that you should follow to apply rationality in your life. 1. Be aware of your cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts or errors that distort your perception, memory, and reasoning. They can affect your beliefs, opinions, and decisions, and make you irrational. Some common cognitive biases are confirmation bias, availability heuristic, anchoring effect, and sunk cost fallacy. To overcome your cognitive biases, you need to be aware of them, question your assumptions, seek different perspectives, and test your hypotheses. 2. Be open to new information and evidence. Rationality requires you to be curious, inquisitive, and eager to learn. You need to seek new information and evidence that can help you understand the situation, challenge your views, or support your arguments. You also need to be willing to change your mind or admit your mistakes when you encounter new or contradictory information and evidence. To be open to new information and evidence, you need to do research, ask questions, listen to others, and update your knowledge. 3. Be critical and analytical. Rationality requires you to be critical and analytical. You need to examine the information and evidence that you have, and evaluate its quality, reliability, and relevance. You also need to identify the arguments and claims that are made, and assess their validity, soundness, and strength. You need to avoid logical fallacies, such as ad hominem, straw man, or false dilemma, that can weaken your reasoning or mislead you. To be critical and analytical, you need to use tools such as SWOT analysis, decision matrix, or pros and cons list. 4. Be creative and flexible. Rationality requires you to be creative and flexible. You need to generate and explore as many possible solutions or alternatives as you can, and consider their advantages and disadvantages. You also need to be adaptable and resilient, and able to cope with changes, uncertainties, or difficulties. You need to avoid being rigid, inflexible, or dogmatic, that can limit your options or prevent you from finding the best solution. To be creative and flexible, you need to use tools such as mind mapping, Scamper, or lateral thinking. 5. Be objective and impartial. Rationality requires you to be objective and impartial. You need to base your decisions and judgments on facts and evidence, rather than emotions, biases, or intuition. You also need to be fair and balanced, and able to see the situation from different perspectives, without favoring or discriminating anyone. You need to avoid being subjective, partial, or prejudiced, that can cloud your judgment or interfere with your actions. To be objective and impartial, you need to use tools such as pro-con chart, decision tree, or weighted scoring. 10. 6. Be realistic and practical. Rationality requires you to be realistic and practical. You need to set your goals and expectations that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and align them with your interests and values. You also need to plan and execute your actions that are organized, prepared, and proactive, and use your resources wisely. You need to avoid being unrealistic, impractical, or impossible, that can lead to disappointment, failure, or waste. To be realistic and practical, you need to use tools such as SMART goals, action plan, or Gantt chart. 7. Be confident and decisive. Rationality requires you to be confident and decisive. You need to choose and implement the best solution or alternative that meets your goals and criteria, and be ready to face the consequences. You also need to be committed and responsible, and able to stand by your decisions and judgments, and accept feedback or criticism. You need to avoid being doubtful, indecisive, or hesitant, that can cause you to miss opportunities, make mistakes, or regret. To be confident and decisive, you need to use tools such as pros and cons list, decision tree, or feedback loop. 8. Be positive and optimistic. Rationality requires you to be positive and optimistic. You need to focus on the positive aspects and outcomes of the situation, and expect the best possible results. You also need to be grateful and happy, and able to appreciate what you have, celebrate your achievements, or enjoy your experiences. You need to avoid being negative, pessimistic, or ungrateful, that can make you unhappy, demoralized, or dissatisfied. To be positive and optimistic, you need to use tools such as reflection, feedback, or appreciation. 9. Be humble and open-minded. Rationality requires you to be humble and open-minded. You need to acknowledge your limitations and mistakes, and be willing to learn and improve. You also need to respect and listen to others, and be able to understand and empathize with their views, feelings, or needs. You need to avoid being arrogant, closed-minded, or ignorant, that can make you overconfident, stubborn, or insensitive. To be humble and open-minded, you need to use tools such as journaling, mentoring, or coaching. 10. Be ethical and moral. Rationality requires you to be ethical and moral. You need to follow the principles and values that guide your decisions and judgments, and that are consistent with your conscience and society. You also need to be honest and trustworthy, and able to tell the truth, keep your promises, or honor your commitments. You need to avoid being unethical, immoral, or dishonest, that can harm yourself, others, or the environment. To be ethical and moral, you need to use tools such as ethical dilemma, moral compass, or code of conduct. Here is some examples of situations that you can use to practice and apply these 10 points. You are a friend who wants to help a friend who is depressed, but you don't know how to approach them or what to say. How can you apply rationality in your support? To deal with this situation, you can follow these steps. 1. Identify the situation. You need to know what is the cause, symptom, and severity of your friend's depression, and how it affects their life, mood, and behavior. You also need to know what is your relationship, role, and responsibility with your friend, and how you can help them. 2. Analyze the situation. You need to break down the depression into its biological, psychological, and social factors, and see which ones are more relevant, more influential, or more manageable for your friend. You also need to evaluate your strengths and weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, and your costs and benefits of helping or not helping your friend. 3. Calm yourself. You need to control your emotions and thoughts, and avoid being overwhelmed by sadness, worry, guilt, or anger. You also need to relax your body and mind, and reduce the stress and pressure that you are feeling. You can use deep breathing, meditation, visualization, or positive affirmations to do this. 4. Set your goal. You need to define what you want to achieve or avoid in helping your friend, and what are the criteria and standards that you will use to measure your success or failure. You need to make your goal specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and align it with your interests and values. You also need to prioritize your goal, and decide how important and urgent it is for you. 5. Generate options. You need to brainstorm and explore as many possible ways to approach and talk to your friend as you can, and consider the advantages and disadvantages of each one. You need to be creative, flexible, and open-minded, and avoid being biased, limited, or fixed on one idea. You also need to be realistic, practical, and feasible, and avoid being unrealistic, impractical, or impossible. 6. Choose the best option. You need to compare and evaluate the options that you have generated, and select the one that best meets your goal and criteria. You need to be rational, objective, and logical, and avoid being emotional, subjective, or illogical. You also need to be confident, decisive, and committed, and avoid being doubtful, indecisive, or hesitant. 7. Implement the option. You need to put your chosen option into action, and monitor and adjust your progress and performance. You need to be organized, prepared, and proactive, and avoid being disorganized, unprepared, or reactive. You also need to be flexible, adaptable, and resilient, and avoid being rigid, inflexible, or fragile. 8. Evaluate the result. You need to review and assess the result that you have achieved, and compare it with your goal and criteria. You need to be honest, accurate, and constructive, and avoid being dishonest, inaccurate, or destructive. You also need to be positive, optimistic, and grateful, and avoid being negative, pessimistic, or ungrateful. 9. Learn from the situation. You need to identify and extract the lessons and insights that you have gained from the situation, and apply them to your future situations. You need to be curious, inquisitive, and eager, and avoid being indifferent, complacent, or bored. You also need to be humble, open, and willing, and avoid being arrogant, closed, or resistant. 10. Use the situation for your purposes. You need to use the situation as an opportunity, challenge, or learning experience, and leverage it for your purposes. You need to be strategic, smart, and cunning, and avoid being random, foolish, or naive. You also need to be ethical, moral, and responsible, and avoid being unethical, immoral, or irresponsible. For example, you can choose to approach your friend in a gentle and supportive way, and try to listen, empathize, or comfort them, and help them cope with their depression. Or you can choose to talk to your friend in a firm and honest way, and try to motivate, encourage, or challenge them, and help them overcome their depression. I hope you found this answer helpful and informative. If you did, please like, comment, and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of my new answers. Thank you for asking, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay rational and make smart decisions. Peace out.